Hi folks, I'm Laird Landon. This episode is about caregiver grief, which is a very important concept that is underappreciated. We're going to do this sort of like a support group. We're going to have questions and I'll give some answers.
Laird, you grieved for your wife for a long time. My wife just died last month. Do you have any advice on how I can process her death and my grief?
Sure, I have some tips about this. I want you to be sure you understand. You get to grieve in your own way, which is my second bullet point here. But there's nothing I can tell you that is formulaic. I do want you to know, though, that grieving is normal. And you can grieve in your very own way. Be very cautious about accepting what others tell you about how they grieved. Nice for them. But you're not their audience. You need to grieve in your own way. If you are very sad and want to close the windows and go to bed, turn out all the lights, and stay there for 2 days, do it. If you want to get up right away, get your pals and go to a movie, do it. And don't let anybody else tell you how to do it. I want to tell you, if anybody does give you any trouble, remember that story of the 22-year MS caregiver. But I want to tell you a little about some academic research done by a professor named George Bonanno at Columbia. He studied how grievers grieve over time, and he found that there are 3 dominant styles that people use. The style most people use, especially in Western civilization, about 80% of us grieve in the way you would normally expect. They first are very emotional. They're dealing with a sadness. They withdraw. They cry. They don't want to be with anybody. They just can't go on. And after a period of time, they come out of that, and they tentatively try to start doing things. They figure, I got to do something, I got to get up, and they ease into things. That's a normal kind of way, and 80% of us do it. About 10% are those that have what are called prolonged grief, where they just can't seem to function. And it actually is a medical condition that responds often to medication and therapy. Some people, though, may go to bed and be so distraught that they can't move. And some of us are afraid of that happening to us. But that happens to only about 10% of the population, according to George Bonanno's work. The last group are also unusual. About 10% of the people act like nothing happened. Now, inside, they may have their own processes. Maybe they're acting for those around, or maybe they're just very forward-looking people who want to get on with life. Some of us caregivers who've been in this a long time saying, I am ready to go fishing. And they get their clothes on the next day, they take care of all of the arrangements, and then they go on with their life almost as if nothing happened. That's unusual. We don't expect that. It used to be called, that's interrupted grief. If you don't grieve now in the right way, it'll come back and get you later, and when it does, it'll be worse. Bonanno's research says that's just not true. Some people are wired that way. So I hope this lets you know, please do it your own way. You have your own ideas, your own relationship with the one who left, your own circumstances, and it is up to you only.
I'm so worn down by caregiving. I truly believe I might die before my mother. Is that likely, or is it just stress?
Another point is I want you to understand, while you're caregiving and you're looking at this long road you've been down and the road that is left, many people get very depressed. And they are unhappy with their situation. And they actually have thoughts that they're going to die before their loved one. It rarely happens. I think this is important for you to know. You will survive this. You will have a life after this. And you will find it's difficult to find that life and to adjust, and you will grieve over losing your loved one, but you will go on. You will find others to engage with. You will have a quality life after this. Another thing to understand early, if you can, in caregiving, you can't cure your loved one. There are stories of caregivers who look around for herbal remedies. They look for anyone who's got advice and can give them hope. That's natural, because you don't have much hope. But as soon as you realize you cannot fix them, you now have the right mission, which is to make them comfortable and enjoy the rest of their days. That's called palliative care. It is caring for them and finding out what they want to do in life that they're still capable of and enabling that, making it happen. You will be happy. You'll be less angry with yourself for not fixing them. And they will be happier because you're doing things that they think are important. Remember the phrase, you can't fix them. You can't stop it. And you can't cure it. So let it go. It's also times when I talked about depression, it isn't really clinical depression. You're really down in the dumps, but it isn't caused by your brain. It isn't caused by a chemical imbalance. And it isn't caused by you being inadequate. And it isn't caused by them not trying enough. And it isn't caused by your family who won't come help you. We get angry at all three of these things. I want you to understand that doesn't do any good. Because they didn't do this to you. You didn't cause it, your loved one didn't, the family didn't. Blame the disease. The disease is taking your loved one. The disease is causing you all of this anguish. If you can blame the disease, blame the situation you're in, then you'll be a little easier on yourself. Your loved one is leaving, but it isn't because they want to. It isn't because they're doing it to you. Be angry at the disease. I want you to know there is guilt associated with this, because every time something bad happens, we tend to say, geez, if I'd only known, if I could have only fixed this, I could have kept it from happening. I just heard in a support group just yesterday about a man who lost his wife. They had a 2-story house. He didn't want her walking up the stairs. So he put a gate in at the base of the stairs. And as long as that gate was closed, she didn't go up there. She couldn't figure out how to open the gate. But you know, from time to time, he had to go up there. And one day, he left the gate open. And she walked up. And she fell down and hurt herself. It's several years later now, and his wife has died. And he still feels guilty about leaving that gate open. Yes, when we look back, we can see things we could have done differently. But the truth is, at the time, you did everything you could. Your actions were heroic. They weren't defective or deficient. Keep clinging to that. You're doing everything you can. And the final thing to keep in mind, I don't want to call it advice, please think about getting help as soon as you need something, both for yourself and for your loved one. Research shows that people who get help earlier have better outcomes than people who delay. Because when you delay or wait and wait, it's because you think you've got it handled. And we all know you don't. So be open to the help for others. Be open to things that can support how your loved one can get by. By that I mean, you need to take a break. Have a neighbor take your loved one to lunch. And you don't spend that lunch break cleaning up the house because they're not in the way. Use that lunch break for you to sit down and take a nap, for you to go for a walk around the block. You must take care of yourself and them. Look for help as soon as you can. I hope there's some ideas that help you along the way with your grief. And thank you very much for watching this episode.